Hello, everyone. I'm Kimberly Adams. Welcome back to Make Me Smart, where we make today make sense. It is Friday, October the 18th.
And I'm Amy Scott, in today for Ryssdal, joining you from the studios at WYPR here in Baltimore. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for Economics on Tap, our weekly happy hour episode.
We're going to do some news, take a quick break, and then play a spooky edition of This or That. But first, let's talk drinks. Were you able to sneak something into the studio, Amy?
Well, I did. I snuck in, don't tell anyone, I snuck in a can of Mojito, which is basically a non-alcoholic mojito, lime and mint. It's got bubbles, though, which is always a little risky when you're hosting a podcast, so I'll take it easy.
That's so funny. We both talked about cocktails yesterday, and when we both ended up with mocktails. I made a mocktail today. This one
that looks
has
nice.
Honeydew. Thank you. It's got honeydew jalapeno shrub and pomegranate juice topped off with some ginger ale, and it's delicious.
That's an advanced mocktail. Mine is in a can, which, as I think I've said before, is kind of how I roll these days.
Which means it's probably more advanced than mine. Let's check out what everybody else is drinking over to the YouTube chat first. Let's see. Billy Bow has Uncle Nearest and Coke. That sounds good. Lewis is drinking Aldi's Chocolate Lava Cake Stout. Says, don't laugh. It's quite delicious. Justin has a Sam Adams Oktoberfest. James also has a Sam Adams Oktoberfest. Let's see.
It's that time of the year.
I guess it is. Karen is drinking hot tea from a local mixmaster. I almost went with some tea. I was seriously thinking about it.
Well, that's the other beverage I have, tea. Yeah. It's also the time of year when cold and flu shows up in the household. So, yeah.
Yeah. Ricardo says, normally can't enjoy a beverage when listening to the live stream from Arizona, but currently on vacation in Puerto Rico, where my wife is attending a conference, and we are now enjoying a mojito. I hope you two have a wonderful time on at least your break. Your wife is still working. Okay, I'm going to pop over to the Discord real quick and see what folks are imbibing over there. Let's see. We've got some wine that Bob is drinking, a Pinot Noir. Love it. And I think I saw some beers as well earlier. Oh, wait. Verbena, tonic water, bitters, and Luxardo cherries. While I edit a writing guide. That's very interesting. And Ryan is having water. Very, very healthy. Very, very healthy. All right, let us move on to some news. Amy, you got the one that I was most interested in talking about, but wow, it's such an interesting story.
Yeah, sorry, Kimberly, but I'd love for you to weigh in on this. So we of course talk a lot about the disconnect between the strong economic data that we've been seeing, like the surprisingly strong jobs report for September, just this week, better than expected retail sales for last month. That versus how people are actually feeling and talking about the economy. And there's a really good piece from the Associated Press today that kind of digs into, I think, one of the big reasons for that, which is that, of course, not everyone is sharing equally in this strong economy. And some research from the Fed and others shows that a lot of the spending that's been fueling the economy is coming from the wealthy, people who are flush with stock market gains, home equity, higher incomes. And so they've been doing a lot of the spending. We keep talking about this resilient American consumer, but a lot of that resilience is at the top end of the spectrum. So just a quote from this story, by August 2024, inflation-adjusted spending on retail goods was nearly 17% higher than in January 2018 for upper income households, defined as those earning more than $100,000. For middle income households, spending rose 13%. And for those earning less than $60,000, spending has risen just 7.9% since 2018 and actually fell during part of that time from 2021 through mid-2023. So that's a lot of numbers, but the bottom line is that this growth in spending is very unequally distributed. And I think it's just really important to keep that in mind because we talk a lot about the vibes versus the data, but
Hmm.
dig into the data and there's actually a wide disparity.
And there are certainly more people experiencing the lower end of that than the upper end of that. And I think this just really gets at what we've been talking about for months and months now about this disconnect. And we talked a while back on here about how much whether or not you own a home is such a filter on how you experience this economy. And when you bought that house, if you bought that house when interest rates were at like 2.5%, you're probably experiencing this economy completely differently than somebody who either is renting or who bought a house in the last year or two when the interest rates were super high. And also, whether or not you have to pay for childcare is a huge thing
Totally.
because the cost of childcare is just eating up all these wage gains and people's incomes, or even elder care if you have to care for an older relative. And so, I don't know how I ended up on like the Birkin bag side of TikTok and Instagram. Um, but somehow the algorithm feels that I need to see people shopping for, um, I don't know, $40,000 purses, which
Do you have a Birkin bag?
of course not. God, no. I would not buy one
I was
either.
confessional time from Kimberly. Yeah.
Absolutely
Well,
not.
I
None.
somehow ended up on the like your eyebrows are thinning, you need, eyebrow help. And I'm like, what are they mining to come up with this stuff? But anyway, I
What's
digress.
fascinating to me about the Birkin talk side of things is just how much people are spending on purses. How like there's a whole culture around it, and I look at the views on these things, and I have to imagine some people actually would desire to see this content, and that this is like the aspiration. And there's just a class of society that is spending ungodly amounts of money on things that the rest of us could never really imagine purchasing, much less purchasing in multiples. And that is why you see these luxury goods companies just doing well despite, consumers pulling back on spending on other things. The luxury retailers seem to be doing fine, if not doing better. And it's just wild. It really is. It makes me, I know that we kind of maybe overuse the comparisons to the Gilded Age, but it's real hard. It's real hard not to see it.
Yeah,
Oh
I think
man.
you're right. It's a good thing you're seeing those TikToks and ads because that's otherwise we wouldn't know how the other
I wouldn't
1%
know.
lives.
It's not even 1% though. It's not even
Yeah,
1%.
the
It's
fraction of,
like
yeah.
the fraction of the 1%, but that drives so much of the spending. Anyway, never imagined I'd be spending this much time talking about Birkin bags on Make Me Smart. So let's move on to other big economic news. Speaking of just disparate economies, Cuba, oh my goodness, the entire island is without power. So the electricity has gone out on the entire island of Cuba after one of its main power plants failed. I'm reading here from NBC News. The government had tried to keep the lights on earlier in the day by closing schools and having most state workers stay home in an effort to conserve energy, but it wasn't enough. And by 11 a.m., the largest power plant went offline, causing a grid failure. And they've been dealing with rolling blackouts for a month. People in Havana having power outages for up to 12 hours at a time. This is because Cuba's ally and main oil supplier, Venezuela, has decreased the amount of shipments it sends to the island, as well as oil shipments from other countries like Russia and Mexico have also greatly diminished. And they don't know how long it's going to take to restore power. The Cuban government is, of course, blaming the U.S. embargo for these, deteriorating economic conditions. But can you imagine, like, the entire country just being without electricity in 2024? The
It's
only
incredible.
possible upside to what is happening, and I'm not trying to be flip, but I'm just trying to find some sort of silver lining here, is that there is going to be a particular meteor shower peaking this weekend. So I guess if you're in Cuba, you'll be able to see it quite
That's
clearly.
that is a good
The
silver lining, Kimberly.
I'm trying here. I'm
I
trying
know, I
here.
know. Well, it is hard
Uh,
to find darkness in our society anymore. I tried
yeah,
when the aurora were going crazy last week. We drove
yeah.
so far out of Baltimore and could barely still make them out with the naked eye. Although on the phone it
Mm,
looked great, of course. So that's what you see everyone posting. Another
hmm.
digression, but imagine what it would be like to look up from a place where there's no power in the entire country.
Hmm.
That's wild.
And I'm sure people have like solar in limited capacity. I'm sure there's lamps. I'm sure there's candles and all sorts of other things. But anyway, there
Yeah.
are going to be the Orionids, I believe is how you say it, that are going to be peaking before dawn on Sunday and Monday, October 20th and 21st. And they should be visible from both hemispheres. Light from the moon will likely overpower a lot of it, but supposedly they're going to be especially bright. So you might be able to see a few. We're going to link to an article about it from Smithsonian Magazine in the show notes. And I certainly will be attempting it, although I will not be driving anywhere. I will just see what kind of luck I can have from the rooftop in DC. Another piece of good news, just because it makes me happy. And despite everything going on in the state of North Carolina has broken their turnout record on the first day of early voting, just like Georgia. I'm reading here from the Washington Post. North Carolinians set a record on the first day of early voting in the state, casting more than 350,000 ballots on Thursday and becoming the second battleground state this week to top its previous mark. So good job, everybody, for voting.
Wow.
That's really exciting,
And
and hope
voting
everybody
in
keeps it
spite of
up.
the tremendous challenges in that state. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. All righty then. That is all the news. And
Oh, I'm
so we are
sorry.
going to
This is
take.
my
That's
line.
okay.
So that's it for the news. We're going to take a quick break and then we'll play a round of this or that. We'll be right back. Ooh,
Ooh, that's very spooky.
a spooky sting.
All right, we are back. It is time for a round of this or that, the spooky season edition, hosted by the wonderful and not very spooky Drew Drostad.
I can be
Hey, Drew.
spooky. Come on.
I believe you can be spooky. We're about to see how spooky
Bring
you
it.
are.
Would you? Are you more of a haunted house person or corn maze person?
I'll just jump in here with corn maze because I don't like jump scares. I really don't.
I do not like jump scares either. I would say corn maze, but a lot of the corn mazes are now like haunted corn maze with the jump scares. So,
That's true.
if it's got
Yeah, you
like
need
a
the
jump
corn mazes that are
scare,
designed for little kids. That's my
yes,
jam.
yes, and the corn mazes that are just pretty, you know? So, yeah, I'll say corn maze with the caveat that I do not want a jump scare.
All right. What about carving pumpkins or bobbing for apples?
Definitely
That
carving
one's so
pumpkins.
easy. Does anyone actually like bobbing for apples?
Children like
To
it.
me, that's like a form of torture and also very unhygienic. I
I was about to say,
love
does anybody
carving
even do that anymore
pumpkins.
post COVID? Do people actually still do bobbing for apples anymore?
I don't
I
know.
guess
What do you think,
you do.
Artax?
He has big feelings about it. Oh boy. I have like Halloween themed toys that I got for him, and he really is obsessed with them. And he's been like,
Oh,
unlike Jasper, he actually likes to play fetch, and so he'll like take these little Halloween themed toys, drop them at my feet, and then scream at the top of his lungs until I throw it. So he's in the
I
process of
have
training me
a cat that
to
plays
do
fetch too. That is super fun. Um,
it.
yeah, sorry, Drew. I do love carving pumpkins though. Uh, I actually just found a picture of my dad doing it with my brother, like I don't know how many years ago, and he loved it until he left us. He loved carving pumpkins, did it every year, and so I just feel very sentimental about the whole thing.
Aw. Do you have a preferred like face that you do?
You know, for a while I've been doing the like Jack Skellington with a white pumpkin, because you know
Mm.
you can get those at some markets, and with the long like slash across the mouth. It's really
Mm-hmm.
fun. I tend to go maybe a little on the spooky side. All this
Bender
to say,
says
I'm not a
carving
very good
pump.
artist, so.
Bender says carving pumpkins because I love roasting the seeds. I like roasting the seeds
Oh
and I
yeah.
like cooking the pieces of pumpkin that I carve from the pumpkin. And I like will toss them with some garlic and olive oil and rosemary and red pepper flakes and roast it in the oven, like the pieces that I carve out. And it's delicious.
Oh, that sounds good.
Next up,
Yes, 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 yes.
talking movies, Ghostbusters or Halloween Town?
Oh, Halloween Town. Do you not know this
Halloween
movie?
Town?
It was like a Disney kid movie like growing in the what, 90s was it? Hold on, let me look.
Yeah, late 90s, I think.
Jeez, how did I
Yeah.
miss this one?
It
Well, you said it was a kids movie. That's
1998.
how I missed
Yeah,
it.
so it was like on Disney in yeah, the late 90s. They had a whole series of like spooky movies that came out around that era and I loved all of those. Yeah, definitely those. What about you?
So what's the other one? The Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love Ghostbusters. I love it. But I have to say, I just watched a movie, Tim Burton's Corpse Bride. It's not really a
Okay.
Halloween movie, but it's a spooky movie, and it's so fun. I loved it.
Yeah. That is a
So,
good
yeah.
spooky movie, as opposed to like The Nightmare Before Christmas. This one spooky like faux kids movie that just destroyed me. Have you ever seen Coraline? That movie is
Oh, no.
so deeply frightening and disturbing. Yeah, I watched it once and I was like, nope, never watching that again.
Okay,
Mm-mm.
I'm gonna skip that one. Thanks for the tip. Because we're
Yeah,
kind of
it's
like,
scary.
honestly, like every year the kids and I are like, okay, let's watch some Halloween movies. And we got to the bottom of the barrel,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. And so I've been tempted to watch that one, but I will avoid
So wait,
it.
we have a bunch of really good Halloween movie recommendations in the chat. Hocus
Oh,
Pocus,
nice.
Great
Yes.
Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see, lots of Hocus Pocus love. Rocky Horror Picture Show, The Nightmare Before
Mm-hmm.
Christmas. Susanna says, I love the Rob Zombie Halloween. Don't know what that is.
Ooh,
People
no.
do love the Corpse Bride, Tim Burton, all the way. Oh, Pan's Labyrinth. That's a good one.
Ooh, yeah.
Ernest saves Halloween. Everyone is saying that Coraline is very, very good.
Okay.
Fine.
Or maybe
It's
I should give
very
it a
well done.
chance.
It's very well done. It just frightened me, and I didn't expect to be that frightened by a stop motion animation movie, and it like still lives with me in a way that I don't like.
Oh,
So Ryan
wow.
Coleman suggests 13 Ghosts. Um, that
Okay.
is the one movie that I have actually walked out of a movie theater on, and I um, was with two of my girlfriends in college, and we were so frightened in the first 5 minutes that we all mutually agreed to leave. And that was the last time I went to see a scary movie in the theater.
Yeah, I don't do scary movies. I know that's like Kai's thing. He doesn't do scary movies.
Mm-mm.
But I don't either. I had a friend growing up across the street. Her parents let her watch horror movies, and after one very bad night, like a sleepover, I just won't do it.
Yes. All right. Last one there. Young Frankenstein is getting a lot of love. Okay. What's the next one,
Oh
Drew?
yeah, another great one.
Rather go to a Halloween parade or a ghost tour?
Ooh, never done
Mm.
the latter.
To my own chagrin, I'm gonna say ghost tour, even though I had some very spooky experiences on a ghost tour in New Orleans once. But I love the history that you usually get on a ghost tour.
I love Halloween parades. There's an amazing one. Got to give a shout out to the Lantern Parade in Baltimore. People go, it's Baltimore. We do parades really, really well. People go all out with these beautiful glowing structures,
Well, and also
insects
you've got
and
the Edgar Allan Poe
pumpkins and
connection and
oh yeah,
everything.
there's lots of people like to be creepy but artistic here. And I love seeing little kids in their costumes. It's just the
Yeah,
cutest.
I do love the costumes.
Next
Are
up
you
is the
ready for the
poll.
poll?
Yep.
Yay!
Ooh,
All
there's
right,
a
everybody get
poll.
ready to vote in the poll for this or that. All right, let's do it.
Talking trick or treating, gummy candy or chocolate candy?
Ah, are you handing out candy this year or taking the kids out, Amy?
Uh, we always take the kids out and leave candy on the porch, which
Hmm.
and my husband always puts a sign that's like, "Please take one," which is very trusting, especially if teens are in the neighborhood. But yeah,
Yeah.
I like to go out with the kids, and I have to say, like after all these years, I still dress up because I love it. It's my favorite.
Do you have a
How about
costume
you?
already?
Well, there's a little bit of a debate about what I'm gonna be. An internal
Hmm.
debate and a debate with my kids about like a joint costume or not. What about you? Do you get
Ah.
trick-or-treaters in your area?
So not so many. I live in a building, so like I would have to like go and sit in the lobby or something with my own candy, and we don't. But I was thinking if I like have the energy of like organizing people to like go sit on the sidewalk and maybe we could do like a joint candy thing. But I also end up often going to Halloween parties and stuff.
Yeah,
So who
yeah.
knows? Um, but I remember once when I was a kid, I was trick-or-treating, my sister and I with my dad, and somehow he convinced us to go trick-or-treating at the funeral home in my neighborhood. And we
I'm
go,
sorry,
it's
what?
dark. Yes, it's dark, it's cold. We're in our little, we were both dressed up, I think, as little puppy dogs, that costume that my mother had actually made for us. It was very
Oh,
cute. And so we go into the funeral home, and I just remember this giant open lobby, this big desk. You had to cross this whole big lobby, and there's a woman sitting behind the desk, and we go over there. We're terrified because we're in a funeral home, and she has this giant bowl of king size candy bars. Because if you were brave enough to go into the funeral home and go up to her, she had king size candy bars and gave us each two.
and you quickly overcame your reticence.
Yes. So the poll is
That's an amazing
done.
story.
82% chocolate, 17% gummy candy. I would vote gummy candy as long as it's not sour. But what about you,
Hmm.
Amy?
Um, Chocolate all the way. But we were talking about this. Was it just yesterday? I feel like I was having a conversation about how tastes are changing and kids really
Mm.
seem to like the gummy stuff. And maybe it's partly because of the rising price of cacao. They're you know, making more of that than less chocolate. But yeah, for me it's like Reese's, peanut butter cups, Kit Kats, all the
Yes,
way.
yes, yes. I see everyone's joke about what kinds of gummies. I get it. Nyah, nyah,
Yeah.
nyah. All right. We are done with our spooky poll. What about you, Drew? Gummy candy or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Okay. Dark chocolate, milk
Didn't have to
chocolate,
wait
white
Yeah,
very
chocolate.
long.
dark chocolate, peanut butter. I think that Amy's got the right idea.
Yeah. If I knew
Nice.
I was gonna only get dark chocolate, I might vote chocolate, but most of the candy that you get from like trick-or-treating is not
Yeah,
that.
that's true.
And all right, so that is it. We have done our game, we have done our news, we have had stories from my childhood and all the other fun. That is it for us today. We are going to be back next week. But before we go, next week we are going to be in Boston for a live show on Friday. We're going to do that live show at WBUR. In-person tickets are sold out, but like we mentioned, you can still join us virtually for $5. You will have the opportunity to hear us talk and do our Friday spiel, as well as special guest historian Heather Cox Richardson, who is going to help us unpack the news of the day, whatever political drama is ongoing, the state of the election. And yeah, you can check out our show notes for more info and where you can get that $5 streaming ticket.
That's going to be a great show. Make Me Smart is produced by Courtney Bergseeker. Today's episode was engineered by Jake Cherry.
The team behind our Friday game is Emily McCune, Jamila Huxtable, and Antoinette Brock. Marissa Cabrera is our senior producer. Bridget Bodner is the director of podcast, and Francesca Levy is the executive director of digital, and on Fridays, also on demand. Just on Fridays. The rest of the week, it's just digital.